Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Marianne Shiozawa, and welcome to the third series of the You're Doing Great Mom podcast. This is the first episode of this third series, and I'm kicking it off with my husband. This third series that I'm doing is all about men and fatherhood. There aren't many opportunities for me to sit down and talk about this topic with men, which is why I was very interested in exploring this. I decided I would invite all men, single, married, straight, gay, dads, and non-dads, all talking about fatherhood. So to start this series, it was convenient and also natural for me to sit down with my husband to talk about fatherhood. Of course, we've talked about this stuff many times before, but it was fun to do it this way because of the platform and hearing him share his side of the story. While we were recording, I noticed how it was difficult for me to sit there and be quiet just to listen without presuming or predicting what he'd say. Also, we kept on getting interrupted by something, whether it was the children or some other random thing like noticing the time and realizing I had to pick up one of our kids. So while the overall theme was fatherhood, the conversation turned into an entertaining marital discussion of a range of topics. If anything, it was definitely fun for me, and I think it was fun for him. I hope you get a few laughs out of this. So here it is, our light and candid conversation about fatherhood and family life, and lots of stuff in between. Enjoy. Today I'm talking to my husband.
It happens occasionally.
You planned that, honey. Today I'm talking to my husband, and he's sitting next to me, and we're here together having a conversation. I get to talk to him about fatherhood.
Who knew?
I get to ask you questions about fatherhood.
Oh my.
Right. So, the first question I've been asking the men that I've had so far is, did you always know that you wanted to be a father?
Yes.
Okay.
I said the curt answer because my wife has told me that interviewing men and women has not been the same for this. Tell them the difference, my love.
Well, it's actually really easy talking to women, interviewing women for the purposes of the podcast, because when I ask them a question, they answer it and they elaborate. They naturally elaborate. They say, if it's, for example, a yes or no answer, they say yes and they back it up with a story or whatever they want to share to back up their answer, their yes or no. I don't have to answer. I don't have to ask them to elaborate. I've never once had to ask them to elaborate. And now I've discovered that with the men, and I sort of had a inkling that this was going to happen. I had an idea that it was going to be different, and I was predicting that it was going to be there's going to be fewer words, but I didn't. In the middle of it, in the moment, in the thick of it, it was quite challenging at first because it was like, ugh. It's happening. Like, I'm asking him a question, and he just answered it, and that's it.
Why use 3 syllables when 2 will do?
So, I asked you a question, and you answered it.
I'll give you more. Yes, I always knew I wanted to be a father. My aunt, I have an aunt who's 13 years older than me, and she once told me, she must have been in her mid-20s at the time, about a male friend of hers who had dealt with female optimism about marriage by saying he was definitely never going to marry before the age of 28. And I thought that was a pretty sensible rule, but I also, and it stuck in me a little, and I knew that, and even at 25, I was cognizant that I wanted children to be part of my life. And her throwaway thing when I was in my early teens kind of had 28 as the age for me where I'm now ready. At 28, I knew I was available for marriage with the right damsel. That constraint turned out to be material, but that's life. So, yes, I always knew, and I envisaged late 20s, early 30s, and it started mid-30s.
So, but when did you start... when did you start thinking about being a father? Or was there ever a time in your life, let's say age 5, okay, just for example, did you ever think...
This is going to be one syllable. 2 letters.
Did you ever think, I want to be a father?
Age 5?
Yes.
No.
Because some women have told me that they knew that they wanted to be a mother from the age of 5. It's not uncommon.
For men to talk about what women think is called mansplaining now and is prohibited. The whole thing is now filed under the someone else's problem category, perhaps because of that word. I've no idea what women do, but I do know that age 5, fatherhood was just... What? I'm 5.
I understand that. That's understandable.
I didn't even go through the process of what I'm 5. It just never occurred to me to think of that. No.
Well, I mean, it's logical to ask the question. I think most men would probably answer the same way, but it's not the same for women. Some women, they knew that when they were playing with dolls, in their mind, they saw themselves as a mother. They saw themselves... They had... I don't know what... you can't explain the psychology behind it.
If you're playing with if one is playing with dolls, one can see that there's... The player with the dolls is acting in a parental capacity. If you're playing with cars and guns, one should definitely not be doing that in a parental capacity. And as a boy, I was interested in things that were then described as very male toys. Now that term is prohibited, but it doesn't quite make it untrue.
Well, let's not make this... This is not a PC podcast.
Fine.
So,
I can see why those playing with dolls would be in the capacity of a parent in a way that those not playing with dolls aren't.
Okay, let's move on. So, you had it in your mind that you were ready to become a father at age 28.
Yeah.
Okay. You've told me this before, just because you're my husband. And I find that a little strange because in my experience, men don't... that sounds more like what a woman would say. I want to have a child at the age of 28.
I didn't say that. I said I was ready for fatherhood at 28. It is not right. 28,
but how would you have
28th birthday. Next one. Come in. Could have done better, but all right, that'll do.
No, but what if you weren't ready? On an emotional level, when you were 28, looking back now, on an emotional level, just don't say something silly or witty or sarcastic.
But it's the true answer. The witty, sarcastic, silly thing is the true answer. I didn't relate to the world emotionally at all. Fatherhood has made me relate to the world a little bit more emotionally, but I am still very rational about how I think about things. I watch what a child does, and sometimes I'm not thinking, nebs, which is what Mum is thinking, or annoying little scrat. I'm thinking, I can see how that manipulates the incentive, and this is the strategy I would need to counter-manipulate the incentive such that the child is incentivized to behave rather than me. And it's a cold microeconomist way of seeing the world. And I am much more emotional than I was in my 20s. I'm now 49. But could pass for oldish looking 48. But it's a rational way of thinking.
Okay, but what if practically you weren't ready at 28?
Well, what do you mean by practically? Do you mean I wasn't madly in love with my then girlfriend?
No. Okay, let's say you were in a happy relationship and forget about the presence or not presence of a female, of a woman. I mean, I know that plays a big... Wait, just work with me.
I'm male. How can the presence or non-presence of a female be irrelevant here?
I'm trying to get to...
It's everything.
Just work with me. Obviously, that has to be there.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is for you in your life, because Alison Armstrong, that relationship coach that I listen to that I really, really love and respect, she says that if a man is in a relationship with a woman and he loves her.
Violin music.
Just because he loves her doesn't mean, and he's in a happy relationship with her, doesn't mean that he's ready to settle down, marry her, and have children.
Okay, well, that's fascinating that this woman whom I've never met, who talks about most men as if I'm typical of men, says this particular thing. What am I meant to do about it?
But, okay, so my point is that a lot of men at age 28 are not ready to be a father.
That might well be true.
So then how did you, I guess it's confusing for me, because how did you know that when you turn 28, if you met me, for example, I don't know, let's just say, because
I might have slipped you in at 27 and a half.
Thanks. If you met me at age 27 and a half, you would have been like, okay, let's get married, let's have a baby.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't believe it.
I don't think you'd have been ready.
I would not. I wouldn't even have. No way.
Okay, so if damsel with whom I'm madly in love, who isn't ready for marriage and that kind of stuff, that is a practical impediment.
I'm not talking about her. I'm saying you. You would have been ready.
I was ready at 28.
And you know this just from memory.
I know this from memory. I didn't feel, Lordy, it's 28 and a half, clock tick, tock, tick, tock. I didn't feel in any hurry.
Is it because you...
but at 28, I knew when the right if the damsel was right, Thunderbirds I go.
But if you... I know very, very well that you don't relate to the world the way I do. And so I'm trying to understand this, because most guys at age 28 on all aspects, career-wise, financially, emotionally, psychologically, they're just not ready. What makes you... Why do you think that you were ready?
Why do you think all guys are not ready at 28? I think some are and some aren't. I don't know. Some are ready at 24, and some are not quite ready at 55. I mean, you see it. And some of the ones who are not quite ready at 55 have already had 3 wives. There's a range here. I don't think it's very fixed. And without my aunt's little seed that grew into something firmer, maybe I would have... Maybe having been given that seed, I then took it and used it as a signal to myself. And without that seed, it would be more of a blur between 25 and 31, let's say, plus or minus 3 years. But because of that seed, and it fitted, I decided I wasn't going to get married till 28, and from 28, I was ready for marriage and all the rest of it when the other minor details fitted.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I guess I don't know. And maybe you're right. Maybe there are some men at age 28.
I mean, you met a very handsome 35-year-old. You didn't know me before then. She's looking puzzled as if, what handsome 35-year-old? I don't remember a handsome 35-year-old. There weren't any of those. There was you.
Oh, it's so funny because, at age when I was 28, I mean, I felt like I was barely out of...
Let me just give the men some advice here. If the conversation's the reverse way round, and she mentions that you met a beautiful 29-year-old, you are meant to have a light go on your face as if you know exactly who she's talking about.
Yeah, top tip. When I was 28, I feel like I was still very much fresh out of university. I was in New York City. I opened up my practice as a chiropractor, and there's no way. I was even questioning. That was the one time, very briefly, that I questioned, do I want to be a mother? Like, having doubts. And marriage. I thought, I don't think I want to get married. I don't know if I want to have children. But, I mean, again, it was very brief.
Strategic deployment of a posh British accent changed all that.
Yes, darling.
No, that was better. I got a smile, too.
You gotta laugh.
I gotta smile and laugh. I'm winning.
Okay, so, let's fast forward. When we met, it went from 0 to 60 in, like, a few seconds.
My love, don't do numbers. It's not your speciality.
Well, it was fast.
It took you about 3 months before you took wicked sexual advantage of your vulnerable patient.
Shh, don't tell anybody. Excuse me. In the American culture, meeting a person, from meeting the person for the first time and then getting married and having a child less than a year later.
Okay. We met in June. There was a complication about when we were going out because there was a phone call to a friend saying, no, we're not dating. I overheard this call. And then 4 weeks later, there was a phone call to a different friend saying, yes, we've been dating for 2 months. So I never quite worked out when we were dating, but that was about September. So met June, dating September-ish, engaged January, married April, pregnant July.
Okay, so...
Baby March. So it was just under 2 years from meet to first baby.
Okay, right, yes. And that's pretty fast.
And that's...
Most people...
Well, I was 35 and I had decided some while ago, about 7 years previously, that I was ready for marriage. And here's the girl I want. What's a boy going to do?
I can't remember why I asked you this.
Don't ask me why a woman asked me something. I don't know. Just answer the question.
I'll just
a few syllables.
pause.
Keep it factual. You can't get in trouble.
Okay. When we started getting serious.
Yes, my love. When was that?
I don't know. When we started getting serious, that's when it was.
Fine.
You were the one that seemed very enthusiastic to start a family. And okay. I can't.
Well, that fits what I've said so far.
Yeah, I mean,
meet you age 35.
You didn't want to waste any time.
Well, you were 31, nearly 32.
Right.
You want 3. You want a little bit of gappage.
Well, I kind of thought 3, definitely 3, maybe 4. That's where it was.
Okay, and actually we started a bit late to do 4. If you don't want to have, for women having babies in their 40s. There are lots of pictures, that's what Instagram is for, of totally handsome children born to women who are 40 and 15. I mean, just ancient. But for those who are more numerically inclined, the statistics become more dangerous when a woman crosses 40. So if you can get the whole family business done by her 40th birthday, that's a good thing to do. I'm not saying anything that any sensible doctor wouldn't agree with. There are plenty of good outcomes for older women, but not all of them.
Well, okay.
So I wanted to get it done by the time she's 40. And even men aging has an effect too. So I'm 35, she's 31 when we meet. Shortly after 1 year, the clock goes round again. And some amount of getting on with it sensible. Sure, if I'd met you at I'm 27 and you're 23, we could have paced it differently.
Oh, God, I was like having fun partying in chiropractic school.
And at age 27, I was having fun in London.
Partying, right, okay.
Right, so this is what young people do.
Yes.
And at some stage, we will hear vague tales, perhaps from friends or leaked through social media, of our children, then old enough to go out and party and have fun, and doing that.
Well, yes, of course. So when we got serious, we kind of got on with it, and it was just, you and I are both quite decisive people, and...
Are we? I don't know. You'd have to ask my wife.
So it was quite clear for both of us that we wanted children quickly, and when I guess like my next line of questioning has to do with what was your experience during my pregnancy? Like when we found out that I was pregnant, was there this heroic feeling and like, I don't know, that sort of, yes, my sperm is strong enough to...
I hadn't doubted.
You didn't have that?
I hadn't doubted. Am I a Jaffa? Am I not? It's a seedless orange. I hadn't spent my bachelorhood worrying about this. I assumed that some 600 million years of large body evolution, filtered by Darwin at every step, would mean that typically it works.
Indeed, but
even my answer to the question is a coolly rational. And when you told me you came out of the little loo in our apartment and on the Upper West Side, I said, "Are you ready to be a daddy?" And I said, "Yes." I gave you a kiss. What? And then you suddenly had this panic attack. Oh my God, we drank that whole bottle of Sauterne last night.
Yeah, we really drank the whole bottle.
Well, what lesser quantity is it possible to drink?
I had that bottle. That I don't even remember what. Do you remember what chateau it was, or
No, I don't.
Because I got that.
I think it's of only mild interest to the readers, the precise vintage.
Right, but it was really good. Even you said you were like, "This is really good."
Okay.
Yeah, I was panicking because I knew. I mean, I don't know what's the typical alcohol content in a Sauterne.
Oh, they're almost alcohol free.
But is it like,
Oh, I believe it's half a unit per dozen bottles or something like that.
Seriously?
Oh, seriously.
Okay, whatever it is, I was seriously embraced by the alcohol.
Do your readers know of the
No.
term? In the Wiseman household, one can be touched by alcohol. Generally, it's a small number of glasses. One can be embraced by alcohol, which might be a good time to slow down. And one can be smothered by alcohol, which is definitely a stop moment.
Yeah, by then it's too late.
Right. So the scale of drinking goes from touched to embraced to smothered.
Right.
Draw the picture in your own mind as you see fit with all of these.
The Americans can say buzzed, drunk, annihilated.
Yes, I think I prefer our phrasing.
So British.
It's so much more
elegant.
The Americans, at least for the first and the last, have drinking as some sort of Star Wars weapon. Whereas the Brits see it as a comfort and a friend. You can be touched, you can be embraced, you can be smothered. Maybe the smothered is a particular type of friend.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So I think our phrasing is more friendly.
Right. There was this little cartoon.
We've not gone very far into fatherhood, by the way.
That's okay. We'll get there. There's this phrase, there's this really fun caricature cartoon quip thing. Like it's about how the Brits hear Americans, and you'll see like,
Yes, there's lots of phrasings.
Like the American is just shouting profanities and just saying this.
And British language has its own weirdnesses.
And then the way the American view the Brits, and there's a British person with the bubble, quote bubble. Oh, sorry. Oh, yes. Oh, sorry. Right. And it's just the funniest. It is actually a really, it's running on Facebook. But anyway.
When a British official says to you, "We'll bear it in mind," what it means is, "I've forgotten it already." Yes, I've had some of this trouble. This is not the subject of this podcast.
Anyway, yes. Well, just the other day, because I'm American, or I was raised in America, and you are British, and we've been together for about 14 years-ish, and...
49 minus 35, they can work out 14 years.
Okay, some people are not that quick, like me.
Okay.
I don't want to have to calculate it.
No, I want to give them the clues. They have to think about it. It's much more interesting.
Okay.
It's much better if you get something 3 hours later, rather than have it shoved down your throat like a duck being fattened for foie gras. You're given all the pieces, and it's your job to assemble them. I think that's much more interesting.
Speaking of foie gras...
Yes?
I think that we're not having foie gras this year.
Call the Home Secretary. International hardship in Stratton.
Okay, no, because in France...
Is this really relevant for your listeners?
Yes, it's fine. Don't worry about it. in France, at the end of the year, it's traditional to have oysters, foie gras, and champagne.
Okay.
That's pretty damn good, right?
I'm not objecting.
And actually, oysters...
Foie gras goes better with port, but oysters go well with champagne.
Okay. So, well, then we'll add port to it.
You've talked me into it.
Okay. And already my sister, who was a strict vegetarian, but then when she got pregnant with her first child, she started craving steak. So she ate like blood sausage. She had blood sausages.
Excellent.
Right? To get the iron.
I've not had black pudding since day before yesterday.
Oh, wonderful. My mother loves black pudding. And so she's now been eating chicken and, fish and she's like kind of a non-vegetarian. So.
Kind of a non-vegetarian.
Okay, anyway, moving on. But she sent but she doesn't eat foie gras, and she's tasted it or whatever.
Fine.
And because my brother was once working for Greenpeace.
Yes.
He was having a really big ethical issue eating foie gras but he loves it, and I love it. My mother loves it. We all love it. And Sophia loves it. Our daughter Sophia, she loves it. Every year when we're in France, for Christmas and we have foie gras, she's like, "Oh, I love it." So she'll have some. So just recently, my sister sent like this video of this short, like 3-minute video of ducks and geese being the galvage.
Yes.
They shove the tubing down there and they force feed them. And of course, it's a barbaric video. The video is just horrible.
Well,
and that's how it is.
Living in the wild is horrible. The industrial farming is not good for the animals. Living in the wild would result in fewer of these animals, and watch Blue Planet. Animals die badly and quickly. It's a jungle out there.
It is. Blue Planet too. Blue Planet is incredible. Anyway, I just thought that I'd mention that.
Okay, your readers have tears running down their face. Your listeners have tears running down their faces at the tales.
I know
of hardship.
it's horrible. It's horrible.
I think there are children who have genuine hardship at Christmas because parents are awful or poor, and this doesn't feel like it's top of the pile of the genuine hardship.
So, back to that thought or that question. I know what other women say about pregnancy and birth and that sort of thing. What is the experience during pregnancy? What are you experiencing? Like, is nothing's really changed for you? Nothing. When does it really change for you?
When does it really change for me? Well, there's a bunch of changes. For a start, long-term serious relationship means that my evening is not to come home, shed some work clothes and think, where am I going to go seek a mate? Which is the single male question.
Where can you go so you can find somebody so you can get laid?
I was putting it only slightly more delicately, more Blue Planet-ish.
Stop being so fake British. Right. Or British. Or...
It's all the same thing. So that part of life changes. She's pregnant. The getting laid comes and goes at different stages of the pregnancy. I suppose there's an increment in the sense of responsibility. Considerably.
During pregnancy, do you feel that sense of responsibility?
In some sense, I felt that the responsibility for wife and future children came on me at marriage.
At marriage?
Yes.
Yeah, I can see that.
So I'm saying it's an increment and not a whole lot because I felt it was already on me. It's not a new responsibility. It's a crystallization of a pre-existing responsibility rather than a new responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, I that's interesting because I think that a woman's experience when she gets married, it's very different. Just how men and women we are different from each other. our experiences of the reality or what's shifted is different. And for me as a woman, getting married was like, oh, you know, he's my husband. And I felt there's a sense of that symbolism of like my...
I don't know what's coming.
Well, what came into my mind was, oh God, I'm gonna sound... I mean, some women are not gonna like this, but...
That sounds good.
But there's...
Is it better not to say it? Is it better to leave the readers, the listeners, in doubt about what it is that the other women won't like that Mrs. Wiseman does for her husband? Should we just move on to the next part of the conversation and leave? Hitchcock said that if a bomb explodes, it's dramatic. If you know there's a bomb under the table and it doesn't explode for 5 minutes, it's more dramatic. But even better is that you know there's a bomb under the table and it never explodes. Should we just move past that without it being said?
I think people want to know what I'm about to say.
Yes, that's why we shouldn't tell them. That the absence of knowledge will be far more interesting and tantalising than some...
There was a clue.
Than some cold, dry fact.
Do you have an idea of what I was going to say?
I said I have no idea.
You had no idea. I bet you my sister listening to this, she would know.
Well,
or maybe not. My best friends would know.
That's fabulous. I'm only a boy. I don't know these things. It's complicated.
Okay. Well,
the question was so long ago now that everybody except the listeners has forgotten. So let's move on.
Your experience as a man getting married, you get the sense of responsibility, this sense of... I think that my younger brother, he just got married, and there's something that I saw in him that shifted.
It's a serious matter. This is not my current girlfriend with whom I might get bored next week, or she might get bored with me next week. But both can happen. Ideally, if they happen at the same time, but that's not usual either. You've moved past that into a different phase with considerably more commitment and responsibility. So yes, it wasn't done lightly or trivially.
Yeah, yeah. See, because I didn't have that. It wasn't like a. There was a responsibility thing there, but it wasn't. I don't think it was the same. It was not the same
for you.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I have a responsibility for many things, but I think you're talking about a different thing. I have a different responsibility. Whatever. Okay, let's move on.
Okay, we've still not got terribly far into fatherhood. We're still doing.
But we're talking about the concept of fatherhood, and that's talking about fatherhood. So okay, well
I mean, the concept is you get laid, 9 months later there's a baby, and the woman claims it's yours. You're paying now. Isn't that the concept? Okay,
so when Sophia was born...
Yes, our firstborn.
Do you remember the moment? Do you remember very well? Because you don't have a good memory.
I think so. Bits of it. It's a big day. It's an extra big day for the woman. She's done a little bit of work in the morning. Proto-fathers, you will be told this many times. You might as well just adopt the story now. A lot of work. And I'm holding a lovely little girl at the end of it. And the whole birth went smoothly. Some fathers have a whole trauma of, or drama of emergency, this, that, the other things not going perfectly to plan. In Elizabethan England, about 1 woman in 8 died during childbirth, and as they had about 10 pregnancies each, it was sort of 1 in 80-ish births killed the mother. So the risks in the wild are pretty hard as well. As an evolved creature, we have this big head thing. It's our unique skill. It's why we can do farming and all the rest of it and communicate with each other, and that means we can hunt animals bigger than ourselves and all this Darwinistic stuff.
And create robots and computers.
And do other really cunning things like create nuclear weapons which kill each other. So that's why we're superbly clever, but it means we're born with a big skull. And the skull is basically as big as possible, as won't usually kill the mother. And infant gazelles can stand up and walk around within about 10 minutes.
Well, same with elephants.
And elephants ditto. And infant humans have to be carried around for a year or two and are fully mature and independent at an age that varies between about 14 and about 44, depending on the particular one. So there's a long period. This whole big skull dependency thing has a huge Darwinistic cost. To resume, we were talking about an hour ago when our recording got interrupted. Her phone was going. It was the eyebrow threading something or other person.
Esthetician.
There we have it. This was not someone who was in my life at all before marriage. I barely knew the job existed. And now the phone goes and the wife has to, oh my God, I forgot. I've got to go to get my eyebrows something or othered. And that's that. Off she goes. I find a pie in the fridge and do the thing that I would do as a bachelor. So she comes back and there's these ludicrously dark eyebrows. The thing got interrupted for some reason so that we could continue recording. Why the ludicrous dark?
Because I got my eyebrows threaded and tinted.
Why does one get eyebrows tinted?
So you know why one would get them threaded?
No, that was the next question.
Well, you know...
Don't say you know whether
I'm asking you, do you know that women groom their face?
Yes, vaguely.
Okay, so facial hair on a woman, including eyebrows, has to be groomed.
Right here, there's the answer.
Okay, excuse me.
Pre-marriage, I was happily ignorant of all these matters. It sort of arrived.
You were also happily ignorant of a lot of things that if this is the subject of fatherhood, and before I realized that I completely forgot this appointment. I was trying to get into the whole question of you probably thought very little about methods of birth and the birthing process, and
that was filed nicely on the shelf labelled "Problems to worry about later. I will get plenty of advance notice before I need to deal with this."
But there's ignorance there too.
Well, it's not a foolish issue you need to know about. No, you don't need to know about this. It's entirely irrelevant. And when your lovely wife says to you, "Darling, I'm pregnant," you go, "Hooray!" and think, in about 3 or 4 months' time, I'm going to need to start thinking about all this birth business. You can have all the essentials sorted out. Everything's got to be packed in advance. You can have a nice bottle of port with which to celebrate. Maybe a big cigar to stand outside the hospital to have. And some other minor matters involving the woman, of course. I'm rolling my eyes before she rolls hers. So no, I knew nothing of birth. There was I think when I was 10, as part of education, there was some video at school of some woman giving birth.
Oh, really?
Yes.
They showed that.
Yes,
back in the day.
Back in the day.
Hold on, let me just set the timer because I'm going to forget to pick up our kids.
Okay, so I'm vaguely aware of the process, but this is before Wikipedia, so I didn't need to know anything. Why do I need to start planning for these matters, which will not come on me suddenly? I'll get plenty of advance notice. Things like making a will. I'm not planning on dying today, but I've had a will for about 20 years. Because it's not whether I'm interested in death, it's whether death is interested in me. And that can happen quite suddenly, at random, or slowly and nastily. Both are possible. And listeners, you should have a will. If you're old enough to own more than nothing, you should have a will. And you can find a good template on the web and draw it up yourself. You don't need to pay a lawyer. Just do it properly, give it some care and thought, and you can update it later. Birth isn't like a will. I expected to be given about 9 months' notice.
Actually, sorry, I'm interrupting you. You're right. People should have a will.
I know, I just said that. They don't need to hear it again. Once is enough.
Well, there was a sad story on Facebook. One of my colleagues, her husband, a chiropractor, died suddenly, and he didn't have. It wasn't really a specific will.
Well,
and there was a lot of complications about...
And when you marry or have big life changes, revisit the will, even if it's just to say the same thing, so that no one can say, well, that was all changed by this. Actually, the will was made after whatever this is.
Well, the point of me telling you about that story is that the friend of the family posted and said, sadly, blah, 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 passed away suddenly, blah, blah, blah. And the whole point of posting it on Facebook was, please, whatever you do, I strongly advise you to create a good solid will, very, very specific, because there was no end of trouble and no end of stress.
Yeah, vagaries, it goes to somebody usseless. If it says nice and clearly what happens, then there's no room for argument, and those who don't like it just have to shut up.
But
I've had a will since my 20s.
Right. Okay. And then you revised it when we got married.
I've revised it a number of times in my life, as before marriage, on marriage, after children. Mm-hmm. There's never been a radical transformation. I've never taken someone and gone, I hate that person now, I'm cutting them out of my will. But one's responsibilities, next of kin, move along as one gets married and things change, and the will has to accommodate that.
And that one part of the will that I just never like to talk about. You know, the part where I'm just very uncomfortable.
No.
After we had Sophia, and you had to add a part.
Oh yes, who inherits the children?
Yeah, if something happens to us.
It just saves a load of argument.
It's something that has to be discussed, and it was never something that I would like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it.
You don't want to think about this, but actually, to have, I want them, and a year of squabbling with lawyers with all the money going there, or I don't want them, and all the money going on. Just not a good plan. Make it clear. Anyway, this is not the point. You can die suddenly, but you're unlikely to become a father suddenly. You might notice getting laid. She might notice it. She might. She really ought to. And you're likely to be told it takes a few weeks for the pregnancy to be noticeable, but then the chemicals say you're pregnant, and you're likely to be told. You get 8 months' notice. So my advice to men who are told you've got to worry about birth, it's an absolute load of rubbish. You do have to worry about birth when your wife/girlfriend is 3-4 months pregnant. You do,
and then she tells her what she wants to do,
and then you don't need to worry about it again because you will be told. And this is one of those you're obeying orders, just do as you're damn told. There are some exceptions for those in the army who might just be called away. And if you are in the army, you should make a plan as to who is going to help the missus if you're out in foreign fields slaying the enemy. Which happens.
It happens.
Being in the military is a different game. And those on submarines...
Oh, God.
Those on Vanguard-class submarines, which are submerged for 4 or 5 months at a time, with no radio contact. Mm. So they really won't know. Them aside, the planning for birth, don't stress.
I think it's more of a woman thing.
You should be involved, but you don't need to worry until she's preggers.
Yeah.
Okay. So, was I worrying about this age 26, 25, aged 5, which is where this conversation started mysteriously? No. File under, can worry about that later.
So things started changing for you when you were saying when we got married, where you felt a sense of responsibility, and then even more so when Sophia was born, our firstborn. But I remember you mentioning that you didn't really feel, or you didn't, I guess using the word feel is not, it doesn't ring true for you. So it wasn't until she was about, I don't know, I can't speak for you, but a year old or something like that, when she was a little less dependent on me and you could feed her, or maybe it was when she started eating regular foods, like the first.
A newborn is very much an attachment of mum.
Yeah.
Dad is very much number 3 in this relationship. Have no doubt. Newborn is on the boob all the time.
All the time.
Mum is just overwhelmed by human contact because she's constantly tied to this. And yes, I wrap her up in a sling so she's attached to my chest and go out. I remember a barman telling me, "My, your beer belly has grown a head."
Oh, he did say that?
Yes. I thought it was a rather good line.
It was in New York City at the Upper West Side at the Dead Poets.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I had...
Very good pub.
I had her slung with one of these cross your guts slings, for lack of a better word, and she'd be nestled in there asleep. But Mum has the baby a lot. And when they're old enough to be fed and to interact more, it's more fun for Dad, and there is... It's less of a well-fed blob needing more food.
Well, I should also mention that it was largely our situation, and what you're saying was largely because I very, very consciously chose to breastfeed exclusively. I was determined to do that. I mean, you remember?
I remember you were determined.
I was determined to do that. And what exclusively breastfed for people, for whoever's listening, if you are not yet there, means that you're just feeding the baby through breast milk.
It's a good recipe. Feed them only breast milk for 5 or 6 months, and give them some to at least a year. Now, my missus will say 2 years.
Well, excuse me. The American Pediatric Association recommends 2 years of breastfeeding.
Okay, there you have it. But give them, at 6 months, they can start getting such treats as mushy banana, and you mush up the banana and put it in the mouth. And eating's quite complicated. You've got to open your mouth, have the spoon go in, and then close your mouth. Use the lips to scrape the goodies off the spoon as the spoon is withdrawn. And it takes a 6-month-old a couple of goes to get the knack of. And then there's this astonished look on the face. That's not warm breast milk. It's a mixture of mushed banana and breast milk. And it's still got a hint of heat. And there's this completely, I wasn't expecting that, that's totally new look. Generally followed by a, that's jolly good, hand reaches out, give me more look. which is fine, and in goes the banana, and it builds up over time with various things like mashed bananas and carrots and whatever stuff it is that the paediatric people say is entirely wholesome and absolutely toxic to adult males.
Well, a lot of babies around that 6-month mark, or even 5 months, they start to watch us, the parents, eat. They start to have a... Do you remember that?
I didn't notice her doing that.
I
don't remember her noticing.
Okay, I noticed it. I especially noticed Anna doing that.
Okay, that
Our third.
I don't remember noticing.
I actually remember Max doing that, but... So when they have that first experience of mushed whatever,
I strongly recommend banana, because banana is sweet, which is always good. Tastes yummy.
It's easy to
go down, yeah. And no one is going to complain that you're poisoning my grandchild type stories.
Yeah,
it's mushed banana.
It's mushed banana. I mean, chimps eat it all the time.
Well, yes, but cows eat grass, and we can't digest grass.
Well, we're closer to.
We have very different digestive tracts to chimps because we eat cooked food.
Okay, well, let's not get into that.
That's a separate story.
It is a separate story. Well, okay, so one of the things that was surprising for me, I remember this, was with everything in the transition of going from not being a mother to a mother, I was very, very overwhelmed and surprised as to how dependent she was with me. I mean, I kind of knew that on a conceptual level, but in a practical, real level, when I was actually in it, first of all, I couldn't believe how much I was feeding her. Like, my boobs were out all the time. I mean, it was just...
And of course, for a first-time mother, having your nipples bashed around by the gums of a somewhat clumsy newborn, and they've still got a reasonable bite. Put a finger in a newborn's mouth and there's a proper bite on it. Mm-hmm. Now, the nipples are are bleeding and sore and all the rest of it. And my poor wife was in a bit of... And I remember taking Sophie at 2 weeks to the paediatrician just to be weighed. And she came out just over 8 pounds. They lose about 5% of their body weight in the first day or two. So she went to 7, just under 8 pounds. And after 2 weeks, we come back from the paediatrician at 9 pounds 1 ounce. And Mum was so pleased that all this work and pain, it had stuck. All this milk had gone in a 2-week-old child, and it had stuck. And she gained 12% of her body mass in 2 weeks. And it was fine.
Yeah, I was very, very happy about that.
And within 3 months, she was an absolute ball of lard. There was... I think most of our three, she was the fattest as a 3-month-old.
Not by far. I mean, all our kids were really fat.
None of them were starved, but she was
the chunky baby.
She was like the adult going to have the stomach stapled with the rolls of fat on the legs.
You can say it. You want to tell the story?
Well, I used to describe shower time as Dance of the Seven Pussies because she had 3 deep fat folds on each leg, and the whole thing needed showering out because gunk gets in it.
She had tons of folds all over. I mean, you just change her diaper and it was just like this juicy fat on her thighs, and it was just, it's something that you want to see in a baby. You don't want like a baby with chicken legs.
And she was crawling by 3 or 4 months?
No. She was crawling by 6 months.
Okay.
She was
around just after crawling. She was crawling, but not for a long time, 6.5, 7 months then. I forgot the precise timing. I remember I'm in the bath with her, and I'm sitting largely upright in the bath to make space. She's between my legs. Mum is in the bathroom. Sophia slips and her face goes under. Mum reaches into the bath to grab her, and I block Mum. I block Mum with my right hand, and there's half a second later, she's there propped up on her arms. Her head is now above the water, and she's got a problem. What am I going to do? She looks around, sees Daddy's leg, lifts one arm and puts it on my knee and pushes herself up, and then she's sitting again. And
so she got up. She got out by herself?
Yes. If her face had been in for 1.5 seconds, I'd have pulled her out.
Okay.
But she had. I'm going to give her 1,500 milliseconds to sort it out herself.
I don't know how in those milliseconds or whatever. Because I reacted instantly.
You went straight.
I reacted faster than
don't exaggerate.
No, but I reacted.
It takes 200 milliseconds to see it for the muscles to start.
I reacted so fast.
You went straight for it, and I blocked you because she'd gone face down.
But how did you have that mental calculation of I'm going to block her and give Sophia
a chance to rescue herself.
A second to
rescue herself. Because she just pushed on her arms and up her head came. Once your head goes in the drink, there's a strong instinct to take it out, even as a 6-month-old. Her head's above the water. She's not panicking. She's just looking up, having got her face wet. It's just like getting her face wet.
I completely don't remember that.
I do. And
I don't remember that. Maybe I buried it and it was traumatic for me.
I think it was her left.
Maybe I was pissed off at you.
Yeah, probably. Oh, that happens, by the way, Dad. If you get it wrong, you're in trouble. And if you get it right, you're in trouble for disagreeing with her and then being right. So just know where this is going. The only thing you can get away with is if she's right and you say, yes, dear. But if she's wrong and you say, yes, dear, you're in trouble. And if she's wrong and you don't say, yes, dear, you're in trouble. There's a bunch of... Just know it. Don't be surprised. So this one I got away with because she came straight up. But she had to come up very quickly for me not to pick her up. But she just pushed with her hands, up the head came. Left hand on my right leg. And she managed to wiggle herself into a sitting position again. And we were playing with a bath toy.
And I probably marched off like my heart was in my throat, and clearly I buried the memory. But you probably, on some level, because she was physically strong enough, because when a baby's at that level of crawling, their core muscles, and they're able to, I mean, she was a very advanced baby, anyway,
yes.
Of the three, actually. And she was pulling herself up and cruising along the furniture. Anyway, so she had a lot of strong
cruising
muscles.
is where they don't have the balance yet to walk, But what they can do is use a table to pull themselves to standing, and we're using their hands walking along the tabletop and the feet walking along the ground, still cruise along something. They could even, standing up, go round a wall. But if they have to cross a room with no islands of support, then they drop to a crawl.
Yeah. I mean, she would only cruise for like 4 or 5 steps. It wasn't like a major, method of traveling.
Standard
it was just
intermediate steps.
So she had the body strength and the coordination to prop herself up. That's why. Because if she was like a 3-month-old baby, there's no way in hell she would have.
If she doesn't have the strength, then it's easy. You just
you
grab.
Instinctively.
I made the judgment call, and it was a good judgment call.
I don't know how you did that in those milliseconds.
I think I've got away with it. I'm not entirely sure, but I think I've got away with it.
Anyway, Sophia, of whom this happened to, she is now, who used to be super tubby, she's like super lean with like not an ounce of fat on her, and she's tall and
can do back tucks on a trampoline.
Yeah, I mean,
She did not get that from her father.
No, her coordination is from my side of the family.
Yes.
Yeah.
And figure.
No. I think she's got your...
She's got my legs.
Yeah.
But I have never looked like I'm at risk of starvation at any time in my life.
Well, I haven't either, though.
I'm being delicate here. What I was trying to say is I'm a fat bastard.
Okay.
And you're not a fat bastard.
Well, isn't bastard masculine?
I think fat bastard could apply to either.
You think so?
I think fat bastard is a distinct term. It is not fat adjective, bastard noun. It's a single compound adjective, fat bastard. But not hyphenated. Maybe a grammarian among your listeners will write in to correct me. I'm not entirely sure.
Who's more grammarian than you?
Few, but they might have more knowledge than me. They might be able to point out that Shakespeare used the term, I doubt it, or somebody ancient and used it in the following way. It came into the modern lingo through, I don't know, fake 007 film.
When we're done with this and it's published, you should send it to some of your Cambridge people.
No, they're not interested in listening to a podcast
sure they
about
are.
motherhood.
Sure, why not? They think you're. I know a few people. I can name 3 people that would be entertained by listening to this.
Well, send it to them then.
Okay, I will. And they might have something to say about the how shall we write fat bastard.
I don't think it's hyphenated, but I think it is a compound adjective.
Oh my gosh.
Actually, it's a compound noun, because I say I'm a fat bastard.
The whole conversation with men about fatherhood is actually really short. Guys don't really say much about it. Because not only in my first conversations and recordings with the other men who are not fathers, I'm sitting here with you, who is a father, and my husband, and I'm finding the...
What do you want me to say? Should I dispel some of the lies?
Sure, what are the lies?
Well, the obvious lie is that there's absolutely nothing for the man to do between ejaculation and playing ball with a 14-year-old.
Yeah, but what if... Hold on a second. What if it's a girl?
It's still a lie that there's nothing to do after ejaculation.
Right.
Right. Modern feminism. Mums do plenty, but dads also do a lot. What have I done? Changed 3 nappies a day.
At least.
For a year and a half for each of... So for a year and a half is 500-600 days. 3 a day is 1,500, 1,800 nappies per child times 3 children.
My husband's a mathematician, can you tell?
Right, roughly 5,000 or 6,000 nappy changes.
Oh gosh, that's going to scare some dudes.
Right. Well, let it scare the environmentalists.
Excuse me, I used cloth diapers.
For a bit.
We've
also got through a whole load of Pampers, which are an environmental disaster and very, very convenient. And I don't have a good solution, but there is a need for something better than cloth that doesn't fill up our landfills with this stuff that will never
Well,
degrade.
the problem with diapers is that before disposable Pampers and Huggies and the whole Ganzadoo were invented, it was cloth diapers, and babies were potty trained by 12 months old. And so...
As one of ours was.
Yes. And Sophia. I mean, the first child is the porcelain child, and she got...
The first child gets undivided attention to mum. The second child, by the time the second child arrives, and there's not this crawling child, there's also a 3 or 4 year old running around, breaking stuff, occupying mum's time. Mum can't do the focus. So there is a first child advantage, and plenty of sociological studies have shown that first children are different.
Yes, that's very true. And...
Is it true that all the moon landings were done by first children? First sons? I think so. I'd have to check that.
Really?
Yes.
Why? Because...
I mean, they selected astronauts, and I believe afterwards they did a study to say, why did we select these? And one of the common features was...
They were firstborns?
I'll need to check that, though. Damn, I don't know.
I have never heard that before.
We might erase this from this if it's not true.
No, but that's an interesting... No, I'm not going to erase this. This is an interesting theory sort of thing.
Right, there is a difference, because looking after one is different from looking after two.
Right.
But apart from anything else, mum can nap at the same time that one naps. When there's two and the little runts just run around not napping at the same time.
Yeah.
Right, mum's nap time evaporates.
Yeah.
Right, so there is a difference.
You know, they say the firstborn... Well, we never used a pacifier, or what do you guys call it? A dummy?
Yes.
Is that what the Brits call it?
Yes. You
So-
don't like them, you think they distort the teeth.
Yeah. But they never really... I tried it once with each of them, and anyway, they say that, you know, with the first child, if when it's dropped, you quickly boil water, you sterilize it, and then you give it back to them and you put them in the mouth. Second child, you lightly rinse it, or you'll you're under the tap, or you'll just you'll use your saliva to try to like wipe it. You know, the third child, you just stick it back in the mouth, or you just blow on it, shake it out, and then stick it in the mouth.
So round three. Interrupted from round two by collecting children from forest school, some happy jape where they run around outside and taught some stuff that 100 years ago every child would have known from the age of 3, because big brother or big cousin would have taught it, but nowadays living as we do in sheltered cities.
What did you call it? A jape?
Yes.
Is that another British thing?
Yes.
We constantly discover words or pronunciations. What was that word before? The last thing, you don't remember. The last word, I said something, and then you go, is that how you say it? And I'm like, say what? And you said...
Some medical term. Fine. Jape, a fun thing, not too serious. J-A-P-E.
Jape.
Some fun game. There's a hint of mischief in the term that there isn't necessarily in game. It could be a practical joke on somebody, but not necessarily. But a dozen children, including our 3, were taken round and taught some basic stuff about woodlands. Anyway, so it means we're resuming in the late afternoon, glass of port in hand, much more civilised. Much more civilised.
And the children are now... We have locked them in the TV room. We have locked them in.
Oh, they're locked
I have the doorknob. Our doorknob is broken, but I have the special doorknob that unlocks it from the outside.
It's not great hardship. The middle one has done his reading today. I've made sure he's done it. I don't think the youngest has done any, but that's only partly my fault. Oh, so Borders Fonseca 1960, cork removed says Fonseca 1958. Slightly disappointed by that.
Why?
60 is a much better year.
Is it? Is Fonseca your favorite? No.
Fonseca's a great one of the. There's half a dozen great names important. Fonseca's one of them. For a 58, it's holding up really well. It's quite dark. I'd say dark red, 40% opaque. quite dry in the mouth, some red cherries, medium length. A 60 would be bigger. This is lighter.
A 60 would be bigger?
Yes, 58 is notoriously light vintage.
Oh, really?
I'm sure this is very important for your listeners in understanding fatherhood to know the relative merits of the 1958 to 1960 port vintages.
Well, it's your sport. It's your hobby.
Yes.
And every man has at least one very dedicated, very...
And some can tell you about every goal Arsenal have scored in the last 40 years.
Yeah.
And I have no clue on that subject. But port vintages, I know a little bit more than nothing.
Yes, well, I would say a lot more than nothing.
Fine. We're still not making much progress discussing fatherhood. Really what we're discussing is growing older and having children. And the two things are sort of vaguely correlated in that one has children in late 20s, 30s, early 40s. Depend if you're a man and subtract 5 years for a woman. And one then grows older with the children. And eventually one suddenly discovers that you're an old man or old woman. And there are adult children no longer running around patter little feet, but going off and running their own lives. Just like we were once. Mm-hmm. So I haven't answered, I feel, any fundamental question about fatherhood.
Well, yeah, you answered some questions.
Okay, so try another one. Just being unfair on the port. I decanted it only half an hour ago. You might improve with some air.
Right. When did you start? When were you allowed to have some alcohol?
11, 12-ish. Age 2, in the high chair, my father would give me the equivalent of about a sixth of a glass of wine, diluted 2 parts water to 1 part wine. Made the baby sleep better, made the parents sleep better, made the baby happy. Everybody was a winner.
Well, did you do this every night?
Well, I don't remember, but I'm told that I'm under the impression it was quite often. Now, modern doctors are all ascetic and pious, and it's awful. Actually, of the various insults the body will take over the years, a small quantity... If a pregnant woman is having a bottle of vodka a day, there is a problem. There is a big problem. The amount of alcohol is de minimis. If there is a problem at all, it is de minimis.
But they noticed a difference, giving you...
Sure, a small fraction of a glass of wine, diluted with water, will make the baby happier and quieter. At age 2 or 3, sitting in my high chair, shoving food in my face and doubtless all over the floor, apparently it made the whole thing work better. I can understand that. I was allowed a proper glass of wine, as in not diluted. I remember aged about 12-ish. My father was opening wine with the care with which he always did. He'd smell the glass, taste it carefully, think about it a moment, retaste it, and then put it down on the table, and that's done. We can now just have a drink when he wants a drink. And with the absolute certainty and therefore correctness of a 12-year-old, I told him that all his wine tasted the same. And obviously I was 12, so obviously I was completely correct, and anything else was unthinkable. Fine. So he opens a second bottle of wine. And gives me half a glass of the second. I only got a small quantity of the second wine. One of these was matured in wood, he said, and one was not. Which is which? So, copying father's way of holding the glass, I smell both, I taste. This one, says I, pointing to one of them. Yes, he said. So they don't all taste the same. Rather snookered on that one. that was one of those very well-taught lessons.
You were probably an interesting 12-year-old, though.
Maybe.
Did you know that you were smarter than most kids at that time? Or did you think that you were?
Yes. That was about the time I started to twig. But actually... you're good at this, you're good at learning, you know information. I mean, how does that work? I mean, how do you judge that? Do you know what I mean? When did you work out you were quite cute?
That's a totally different discussion.
I mean, you can't know at age 3, but there must be some time before, say, 25, when a cute woman has worked out that men pay her more attention than they pay to have friends.
Yeah, but I'm talking about intelligence here.
Okay, but the answer is these things gradually grow on, and you don't remember the day. It was a Tuesday. When one twigs it's by 13, 14, I'd worked out that I was quite good at some of this stuff, and most people weren't. I don't think I knew it at 9.
Well, like in class, I remember when we got our test results back, like it was just a test, and it was paper. I mean, I don't know how they do it now. Apparently, a lot of these things are done online or on the computer. Some of the work I see Sophia doing, who's in year 7, which means 6th grade for the Americans listening. Some of the work is done in their books or in their paperwork. But I do remember, like in high school or in middle school, it was the papers were handed back to us with the big number at the top, circled in red, or and we would share, or what did you get, sort of thing. But the thing is, test scores. I mean, I was really bad, as you know. I was really bad at testing examinations.
Yeah, my wife is not a fool, but she just cannot do tests.
Well, I'm just not good at
tests. Test cause a panic.
I don't know why.
Mental seizure.
I don't. I mean, I had horrible SATs, which is the Scholastic
Aptitude Test.
How did you know that? Okay, moving on, because I know what you're going to say to that. I had horrible SATs. I think, in fact, they tried to, after I took the first one, and it was a really bad score, they tried to give me a workbook or something like that. But I never had a tutor or anything like that. They never got me a tutor. Maybe it's because they couldn't afford it or something. But anyway, I was never good at taking tests. Unless I mean, I don't know. But I did really well in chiropractic school. I was got A's and B's as opposed to, being a totally average B, C student, sometime D student in high school and middle school. I even had my parents were really worried about me. I even had my parents having teacher-parent conferences, and just them. I was always really nervous about that because I knew that they would come home and they would just give me a lecture and a bollocking, as you say, and everything would just stop, and I would kind of do what we sort of think. I think that we reacted with Sophia's latest report, where we were like, okay, things need to change around here, sort of thing, and blah, blah, blah. Although, Sophia's really intelligent, and I think she's a better test taker than I am. But I remember thinking in class that although I was not a good test taker, I definitely didn't think I was the dumbest.
Okay, I knew. For me, it was always very clear in school. Anything that can be done on sheer logic, I was ahead of the teacher.
At age 13, 14?
Yes. I remember... Yes, by age 13, 14, if it was sheer logic, I deduced it from first principles and it was easy peasy. Once it involved a memory, well, if I'd had a memory, I'd have been a lawyer. But to be a lawyer, you need to be able to memorise about 4,000 cases. And in front of Judge Pifflefart, Muggins versus Moggins, 1872, argued as follows. Now, the argument I can hold in my head very easily. I read a legal case and I never forget it. I never forget the argument, which side won, how the law it chooses to interpret its words or its facts. That's easy. But remembering it's Muggins and Maggins, or was it Meggins and Miggins, in front of Judge Too Much Port, I just got no chance of remembering that. So I never became a lawyer. But I noticed when I deal with legal matters, I'm as good at as most lawyers. I just read the law and interpret it very logically and in the right layers. Law sometimes keeps things in separate layers as to what decision belongs where. And I can hold all that very well in my head. So that's why I read maths, because I needed final year of university, my maths revision notes, 2 sides of A4.
I mean, I guess that testing and scholastic aptitude tests and all those testings, national testings, like in this country, I don't know what they're called. Jeez.
They change every 3 weeks.
Okay. 3 weeks. I think that definitely testing is going to give you an idea of, because it's testing your intelligence. It's not only testing your knowledge, it's testing your intelligence.
Yes, but it's also testing the wealth of your parents. There's nothing like some intensive tutoring.
That's interesting.
A lot of practice.
Well, I don't think I ever had a tutor.
Indeed, the reason we've been unstable in our testing is because partly you actually want to have a test that has a real result. Who is good? Who is good at maths and should be taught a lot more maths? Who is good at physics or this or that or the other should be taught a lot more and become an expert in it? But then they discover that the tests say that some people aren't expert. And so then they want the tests to reveal less information so that people who are a bit dumb can pretend they're not quite as dumb, or their parents can pretend they're not quite as dumb. And then they run that for a few years and realise that actually being told more than nothing in a test is quite useful. And we'll go back to being told that these people are good, and yes, that means those who aren't. And then parents get upset again, and I met a teacher in Manhattan, and I asked her, is it true that 95% of your students are in the top quartile? Oh, of course. And 95% of parents believe that 95% of children have parents who believe that their child is in the top quartile. And the numbers don't add up. But that doesn't stop parents believing that their child is more beautiful than the average, more intelligent than the average, and better at everything than the average. Sometimes in accordance with the evidence, and sometimes less so.
Yeah, I think...
I'm probably guilty too.
Well, just from my schooling, my past, and then, I mean, my older brother, we both went to public school in America, which is equivalent to state schools here in the UK, all our lives. And, my brother graduated. He was like the second or third in his class, honor roll student. He got accepted to 5 Ivy League school, all the schools that he applied to, all Ivy League. I think there were 5 or 6, and he got accepted to all of them. It doesn't, and so he ended up going to Stanford. I always thought, well, he's my brother, and I always thought he was the smartest, except for my father, he was the smartest guy in the world.
Your father's smartness is different. Your father remembers stuff.
No, my dad's really smart.
Yes, he's smart, but it's a different type of smart.
Okay, let's not get into that right now. And, but then there's also an element of job satisfaction and career. What do you want to do in your career? What do you want to be? What do you love to do? That sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? And
you were blessed by that. You were touched by the good fairy with her wand.
I was, and
you knew you wanted to be a chiropractor.
I did,
and that set you off on a path where actually you have a reasonable prospect of job satisfaction. It's a great thing to have happened to a 14-year-old.
Well, the thing is, it's not because I think because, well, in my profession, when we have similar stories or similar stories of becoming a chiropractor, we all can say the similar thing. And I know you're gonna say something kind of, sort of, you know what you say when I say things like this. We say that we had a calling.
Well, it's not. So I said you were touched by the good fairy.
Okay.
I mean,
then that's not different. It was. I was
different.
called. It wasn't like I couldn't even. And I think that it's a good experience that I'm really.
It's a dangerous term for chiropractors to use.
Why?
Because it has religious connotations rather than evidence-based connotations.
Okay, well, let's not get into that. But tying it into parenthood, I think that my experience, I'm very happy and grateful that I had my experience, because the things that I tell our children, to each one of them, is you find what you love to do, and you can go for that, be that, do that, and find a way to make money doing that. Because if you're good at it, if you love it, you'll probably be good at it. Probably, if you work hard at it. And you can find a way to make money, make it into a business. And I recognize that not many people, Not many people have that experience.
This is absolute rubbish.
I have no idea what's coming.
What proportion of, particularly sons, but maybe that reflects an older prejudice on my part, of children want to be an astronaut? You can want to be an astronaut all you jolly well like. But of the million children who want to be an astronaut, about 4 will go up in a rocket.
How many kids?
The idea that you can be anything you want to be is imbued with American optimism. It's delicious.
No.
It's also entirely untrue. You can be only a very small fraction of the things you might want to be. Swallow.
Okay, well then I think that there's a good balance. That's where we have a good balance between each other, because you always have, and I say it, there's a fine line between your realism and your pessimism. Really fine line. And a lot of times I think you're being pessimistic where you think you're being realistic, or you always think you're being realistic, and I usually think you're being pessimistic. But I recognize that you have much more of a realistic way of, and practical way of looking at life, whereas for me, I'm a big dreamer.
Yes.
And I'm a visionary as well.
And there's lots of people living in very bad circumstances because their dreams didn't come about. Not everything you dream of being, not everything you want to be, you can be. Sometimes you're just deeply unqualified. I want to be an Olympic sprinter. Yes, I'm 49 in a tub of lard. Let's review this decision.
I don't agree.
Some things you want to be, you're actually not obviously less qualified than others who manage to get there, but just by bad chance, or even fair chance. It could be that of the 100 people who are moderately well qualified, not Nobel Prize-winningly excellent, but just moderately well qualified, 3 or 4 will somehow scrabble over the hurdles, and 97 will be left going, but I'm as good as him, I'm as good as her. Doesn't matter.
I don't think it works that way. Let me just hear me out. Let's take like Olympic. Let's go Olympic. Let's use your example. The thing about becoming an Olympic athlete, let's take Michael Phelps, for example. It's not as simple as, it's not like a kid just wakes up one day and says, I want to be an Olympic gold medalist in swimming. It doesn't just happen that way.
Okay, so let's say Michael Phelps. How many athletes show up to an Olympics to take part in the swimming events? A few hundred? What proportion of them go home with gold round their neck? 1%? 5%? I don't know the numbers. But even of those who have got there and done the opening ceremony, walking, holding their country's flag, feeling smug as a pack of biscuits, I've just made that up, I don't know how smug biscuits feel, walk around the stadium and then go and do their swimming, and most of them are going home without any bits of metal around their neck. Just most of them. And I don't know whether it's 99% or 95% or 90%, but even of those who have got that far. Now let's go down several levels to those who have won the South London schools 100 metres type thing. So you're now one of a bunch of very competent swimmers of your sort of age in the UK. Even there, dreaming that you're going to win an Olympic medal is mostly going to end in disappointment.
Okay, but that's you said an Olympic sprinter. You said an Olympic sprinter. You didn't say. I said medal.
You said Phelps.
Okay.
Gold medal.
Okay, fine. Right. But what I'm saying is, my point is that
if your ambition is to come second in your school's heat, you've got a chance. Do it for 5 years. Do some practice. You've got a good chance coming at least second. But the idea that you can be anything you want to be if you just put the work in is delicious optimism, very productive for the country. It makes people work harder, it makes them more productive. It means even if they fail, they're better qualified and more useful as an economic asset to themselves and to their country and as taxpayers. Great idea. But I just can't help see that the untruth in the optimism is rather too strong.
It's not just... Okay, putting aside the optimism, I think that there has to be an element of being good at something. So definitely have to have... I mean, sure, you take my situation. I was just 14 years old. I had no idea if I was going to be a good chiropractor. I am now, for the record. But when I that night, when I had when the fairy, I mean, it actually felt like I got tapped. I got struck. It felt like that night
it's
when
a
I
good
was
thing. It's a good
I
thing
was
to
I was
happen to a
babysitting the family of 5 children, and the dad was a chiropractor, and the 2 eldest were telling me about their dad and his profession and being chiropractic kids, and I was just absolutely amazed and inspired, and I really that was what I remember, that feeling. This is what I want to do. I remember that thought.
Well,
but I had no idea I was going to be good. Having said that, I think that, like, for example, you see these amazing kid dancers on YouTube, for example, right? There's a couple, there's a handful that Sophia knows by name, and they're very, very good. And they went to this dance school that was, I think they didn't even go to regular school because they were so dedicated to going to this dance school, because they had to wake up at 5 a.m. every day to practice for hours and hours. And then they had some kind of like tutor or homeschooling system going down. And these girls are famous because they built up this young dance career, and now they have these YouTube channels, and because of that, they've been hired by all the top performers like Katy Perry, Taylor Swift, and et cetera, et cetera. There has to be an element of being good at something and loving it. You have to have them both together.
To love something where, actually, with a modicum of talent and all the appropriate work, you can make a decent career out of it, is excellent. But the idea, and do it, go for it. But you can be anything you can be. Once the word anything has crept into the sentence, the counterexamples start crowding in the doorway and creeping through the sides of the windows.
So if I said to our children, you can be anything you put your heart to doing.
It's absolutely
you could do anything that you put. What is that saying?
It doesn't matter what the saying is. It's crap. Absolute utter rubbish. I want to be the president. Well, you weren't born in the United States. I want there to be a constitutional amendment so that I can be the president and then be the president. Mr. Wiseman, yes, back on planet Earth, you can be. If your ambitions match your talents, you've got a good chance. If your ambitions are slightly more than your talents, with a load of work, you've got a chance. If your ambitions are far ahead of your talents, then you definitely don't have a talent in judging your ambitions well.
Okay, well, the whole...
Maybe I don't see it as pessimistic. I see a healthy dose of, if I promise them the earth and then they're disappointed when they only get a bit of it, I'm setting myself up before. I'm not promising the earth. Anything you can be is a very broad promise.
I actually don't remember ever saying that
because you're married to me.
Probably because you're
likely to correct it.
Your YOUR realism and pessimism definitely does it. What's the word I'm looking? It goes. It reverberates in my head.
Fine.
And so I don't know how much of me reverberates in your head because you don't have any of that. Oh, you can do anything your heart desires.
Provided your heart is sensible and moderate in its ambitions.
Okay. The bottom line is, in terms of trying to reel this back into the main topic of parenthood / fatherhood, you and I...
Okay, here's my advice for fatherhood. Don't promise stuff that ain't true. You can get away with it with a 3-year-old, but by 4 they'll have worked out that daddy doesn't tell the truth. Don't do that. Keep it real, keep it accurate, keep it honest. It doesn't mean you need to deliver the fullness of the truth about where babies come from at an early age, but be very careful. When you find it, be quite fair to say, you're a bit young for this, so I'll give you a simpler version. And then give them the simpler version. Don't set yourself up for a fall. Next, when you do things, you create incentives. And if you're nice because they've just done something awful, you will get more of the awfulness. There has to be a niceness gradient, whereby them being good, actually it feels really good to them, and them not being good feels not so good. There needs to be a decent, and nice at all levels of naughtiness doesn't work, and nasty at all levels of naughtiness doesn't work. You need to be less nice when they've been naughty and much more nice when they've been good, such that they feel that being good is generally a good proposition and a good deal. We'll do this again. And bacteria respond to incentives that can be created. Simple mice respond in mazes to incentives that are created. I promise you, your children can do it too.
Right. Well, okay. These are tips about just the grand scheme of fatherhood. But like,
next, make sure the house always has enough milk, eggs, and bread. You can.
Yeah, but what if they're vegan? What if they're vegans?
Next, don't be vegan. So that even if the shops are shut and it's late at night and there's a hungry child, you can cope with feeding them.
Have the essentials. Whatever the essentials are for you, have the essentials.
Yes, make sure it's eggs, milk, breakfast cereal, bread, because you can cook all kinds of things.
And make sure you have a bottle of something alcoholic for yourself.
And that was next. Never ever run out of basic. It's 9 o'clock and they're in bed. It's time for a nice.
I was just in the neighborhood next to our neighborhood with the big grocery store, and there was mobs of people, of course, because it's 2 days before Christmas, and everywhere we were going, all the shops had their store hours for Christmas, and every store for Christmas and Boxing Day closed, and I just thought, oh God, okay, do we need this? We got to have this. And and the liquor aisle was quite empty, especially the specials, like the special champagne and there's
locusts have come in and swept the shelves.
Oh my gosh, it was. I mean, lots of people, because you don't want to run out of that stuff on Christmas Day and Boxing Day when everything's closed.
When there's a sale in the supermarket of a liquor I really like, the price is way too cheap, I clear the shelf. I have friends who, when there's port special offers in supermarkets, we tell each other, and entire counties get cleared.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
We're terrible customers.
What kind of advice could you give to like someone like my younger brother he just got married?
Recognize the limitations of your control for the first while of fatherhood.
What was surprising? Was there something that was surprising for you that you if some dude, someone said, listen to this podcast, it's got good advice on it. What would you have wished or hoped that, if you can go back in time sort of thing, is there anything, is your memory good enough for that? To hear some kind of advice that you would have been useful?
One thing that surprised me with how useful it was, that we were not very good after the first child, was the baby sign language. Because it's very frustrating as a dad. Mum's gone out. Child is crying. Expletive. Not because I don't want to make the child happy, but because I've looked up. Pick up child, just put your thumb slightly into the nappy and put it out so you can look down to see whether any treasures are there. Have a smell. No, we're treasure free. Okay, so what's the problem? Are you cold? You feel the right temperature, you're in the right blankets. I'll wrap you up snugly again. Okay, we're not winning. What is the problem? Milk, you've got to wait for mummy. And teaching baby sign, what age did Soph master basic sign language? Was it 6 months?
She was 6 months, yeah.
6 months. Just the ability for the child to convey yes or no. Produce a banana, child does a no sign. That's a great help. Rather than, is this what's needed? Attempt to shove banana in the child not cooperate. Shove the child banana in the child not cooperate. Maybe didn't want a banana. Maybe did, and I'm doing this. I don't know what's going on. For a child just to know the yes, more, and no signs is fantastic. Because now we can have a conversation. You can show candidate A.
Well, she was good at more.
She was very good at more. But it tells me, keep going. Rather than X amount of food has gone in, do I need more or not? Child does more so.
It was this.
And I know what to do. It's not a lot of effort to teach the child 3 or 4 signs. Well, I say it's not a lot of effort. I have no idea how much effort it was. I took no role in this at all. But encourage your wife or somebody who spends a lot of time with the child to teach a few signs then are really clear.
Yeah, baby sign language was quite useful. But then again, I did baby sign language a lot with our number one child, which is why she got the certain signs right. She got the poo sign right. She would do that when she needed to poo. And the more sign, for the record, is just tapping your fingertips together on both hands, left and right. Just together.
Fingers, in one hand, the thumb is touching all 5 fingers.
And you're just tapping them together.
And the other hand, the thumb is touching all 5 fingers. So all the fingers are close together, and the 2 hands now tap together.
Tap.
And that means yummy, yummy, yummy.
More.
But portions too small.
Do you know my sister's son does that? It's so cute.
I did not know that.
He can talk now, but before he was doing it.
I'm looking at 2 empty glasses of port, and I'm thinking, more sign, more sign.
Yeah, we finished the port in our glass.
That is a tip that was a complete surprise to me, and I wasn't aware of it, and made it a lot easier. In the basic stuff, but try to be disciplined about bedtime. Make sure food is nutritious, but also has some fun bits. I remember going to a port tasting, and my wife and children came along just for the food. So I'm with friends at the port tasting, and my wife and children were there for the food because we were out of the town in which we lived. It was a little complicated. And little Anastasia had her first taste of clotted cream, aged about 8 months. Mm-hmm. And the more sign happens, and suddenly she worked out she had spent her whole life, all 8 months of it, being robbed. There had not been any clotted cream in her life, and this was now utterly, now the truth was revealed. Now the whole sham of parenthood had been laid horribly bare and clear. Now it's clotted cream or death.
Clotted cream is very British.
It's like double cream, only about 3 times as heavy and
Americans
solid.
will still not understand that. So in America, there's heavy cream, there's half and half, there's whole milk, skim.
Clotted cream is what heavy cream hopes to be when it grows up.
Okay,
that's all you need. The details.
It's just dense. It's just a dense. It is what it sounds like. It's just.
It's so dense. It's so dense. It's now a soft solid, softer than say Play-Doh. But still a solid.
No,
you can put it on a spoon.
Like I'm trying to.
Clotted cream go on a spoon.
It's got okay. Here's the thing. It's got the consistency of thick Greek yogurt or thick sour cream. That for the American wife.
Yes.
I was going to say housewife. Oh my god. Sorry. For the American wife or American husband or whatever. Any American, clotted cream is like the consistency of sour cream, but it tastes like heavy cream. It's just this cream, and it's
like heavy cream. It tastes like more.
What does it taste like?
What heavy cream wants to be when it grows up.
Is that your word? Are those your words?
Yes. So 8-month-old suddenly realises her whole life has been a sham. It has been a lie and a pretense because there has been 0 clotted cream until this moment, and more clotted cream now.
Yeah.
Right. So give them treats. Give them good food too. One of my friends did something which I thought was quite clever. She's late in her pregnancy. She ate a lot of very spicy curries. I don't want the children to be food fadders. I don't know whether that works.
It's more about if you're breastfeeding. It's about eating it because the flavor of the slight taste or a hint of the flavor of the food goes into the breast milk. So I think it's more of what you eat when you're after the baby's born and when you're breastfeeding.
Okay, I'll defer to the medical professionals. They're always less exciting, but it's just what happens. However much you think fatherhood is going to cost, you're deluded. It's much more expensive than that. Even if you allow for this rule, it's still much more expensive than that. Or whatever savings you think you've mounted up that have got the whole problem sorted out, failure. Other advice?
I have advice.
Oh yes, have a elder brother or sister who has children about 2 years older than yours, so you can filter all their used clothes and save yourself a packet of money. And when the clothes are done, don't put them in the bin. Pass them down, pass them on, or even give them to a local nursery who will know plenty of mothers who actually can't afford to clothe their children well and will be very happy to take an extra warm coat, now too small for yours, but plenty big enough for hers. Be decent about that. I don't think with shoes, though. I think with shoes you have to start new. I think worn shoes
worn shoes are not good.
They gain the shape of the foot, and that's not good. As an adult male, I buy myself new shoes, I think, every decade. But not all my shoes get replaced. Only a small fraction of them get replaced every decade. I think I've bought some shoes this decade. You will discover that children and shoes are a quite different proposition.
Oh my gosh.
Because you buy shoes that are slightly too big, and 6 months later, it's the foot doesn't go in.
Excuse me, try 3 months. I bought Max some new shoes for PE, for school anyway, because they have to be all black.
And they're too small.
And they're too small now. That was 3 months ago.
Spend it. So be prepared to spend your lifetime savings and more on shoes. And not even for the missus, though it's not impossible that a separate allocation will be needed there. Other advice?
I have advice.
Make a decision about iPads. iPads are a fantastic anti-sex device. The wife can lie in bed using Facebook and not do anything else. And they also are a great child vegetabilizing device. I strongly recommend never owning one. Good luck with that.
That's true. iPads are actually evil. They're not good. I have advice for the men.
What's the advice of men?
If they're in a relationship with the woman and she just had a baby. There's not that much that you can do more if the baby's crying, than what she can do. Because if she's breastfeeding, then it's most likely going to be solved with the breast milk. And if failing that, you can have a go. It's good to have a go, especially if she's going crazy. If she's going crazy and she looks like she's about to
Is she the mother or the child?
Yeah, the mother. If she's looking like
the basics.
Take the baby out of her hands for about 5 minutes.
Basics. You can look at the back door and see whether things need changing.
I know. Okay, so hold on. So if after you've helped her with the baby who hasn't stopped crying, do something for her. Go in. If there's a pile of dishes to be done, just do that and tell her you're going to do that. You know what? I'm sorry, I haven't been able to, stop the baby crying. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna. What do you want me to do? Offer your help. And she's not. A lot of times she's not going to sound rational. She's going to be really emotional. She's going to be crying. She's going to be she might be even smelly because she hasn't showered all day and it's 7 p.m. at night.
Top tip, don't tell her.
You could actually, you can give the baby a bath. Maybe the baby a bath or shower.
Sitting in the bath with the baby actually is very calming for them.
It is very calming.
The water can't be too hot, but nor too cold. So you're going to judge that right. Then baby between your legs, and a bit of daddy-child interaction, and baby can sit in the bath. They're quite fun. You can hold the baby's hand and splash the water a couple of times. They get the knack that you can smack the water and it goes splash. It's a sensation on the hands. And suddenly bath time is great.
I know, but I'm talking about a 2-week-old here.
This is 2-week-old.
Actually, a good idea is
insert ice cream into mother.
One thing that you could probably do if the baby's wailing is just put the baby in a sling and go take a walk with the baby for 30 minutes. If she'll allow you to do that. Because if breast milk or bottle, whatever you're feeding the baby, bottled or breast milk is not working, the baby is just crying because maybe there's colic that's setting in. My view is call your chiropractor, get the baby adjusted. Failing that, take the baby out. If it's 9 p.m. or 10 p.m., just help her, because your wife is absolutely going crazy and she's about to kill somebody, and it's probably going to be you. Not because she doesn't love you or she hates you at that moment, but she's going to have an absolute fit. She's thinking that she's the worst.
Put the baby in a sling and go for a half hour.
Or in the stroller, or what do you call it, the pushchair?
Yes, but
and
just
a
sling is better because it's warmer.
I know it's better, but whatever the person has.
But the person doesn't. The listeners might not know this.
Definitely get a baby wearing device.
A baby wearing device means the baby's next to your heart. It hears the heartbeat just like In the womb, there's this mother's heart going boom, boom, boom all the time. And suddenly you come out into this cold air stuff. It was warm and cuddly in there. Now you're in this cold air stuff, you don't get fed continuously. And it's cold and air and the heartbeat's gone. And it's all a bit strange. Mah! Is the obvious response.
Oh,
and they
please don't do that sound again.
Okay, and that can go in a baby sling, wrapped up warmly, even in winter. Little hat on if it's winter. And ear is next to Daddy's heart. You can go for a walk around the block. And there's two bodies next to each other, so the baby's actually very warm. And it is calming. I remember all three having been calmed in their own way by exactly that.
Yeah.
You can come back, and as soon as you have the change of air again, crying again, but now Mum's had half an hour away, the baby's run up an appetite. Mm-hmm. You can fill up the tank with whatever it is, and now it's, okay, I'll have a nap now to digest that. And everyone can breathe easy, and you open a bottle of port again. It's easy.
Yes. Okay, well, thank you, husband, for spending some special time with me.
No trouble, my love.
Recording this episode.
It seems... I'm not into a podcast. I don't understand them. I digest information...
I know. You were born in the wrong century.
I'm born in the wrong century, visually. And all this ear stuff is not my expertise. So I hope your listeners love it, but I don't quite understand what they would or wouldn't love.
Okay, and there you have it.
Top up time.
And there you have it. Be sure to write a review and don't forget to subscribe to my podcast. Thanks again for listening, everybody. And I will be back next week with another guy having a conversation about fatherhood. Please check out my website, yourdoinggreatmom.com. That's YOURE, doinggreatmom.com for more information about this podcast, my mommy coaching, and all the previous episodes. See you next week.